This is the Apparelist podcast, designed to bring you real-life conversation about high-level topics relevant to the decorated apparel community.
Hello, apparel people. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Apparelist podcast. Today, we are talking about company culture. We at Apparelist get asked about this topic frequently. You know, how should a shop go about building the right company culture, making sure everything aligns with its overall business plan? How do you get staff to buy in? Where and when do challenges arise? All that good stuff. Company culture affects everything within a business, from hiring to employee organization and workflow. But it's about more than just bringing in free lunch on Fridays. So let's dive into the details. Today's guests are two guys I consider to be experts on the topic. They've built one of the most successful screen printing companies in the US, and arguably one of the most recognizable. And of course, you know, one of the reasons is probably because they have pretty good company culture. So let's welcome Rich Santo and Carlo Oviedo of Culture Studio. Rich is the CEO, Carlo the CRO. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. That was a great intro. Thanks. We'll take that.
Absolutely. You know, I love what you guys do over there at Culture. Carlo, you serve on our advisory board, so it's always fun to hear what y'all have going on. Carlo, when we started talking about this podcast episode, you know, you brought up the topic of company culture, and I think that's, you know, a really solid one. But before we really step into that, why don't I field this question? Let's start with you, Rich. Can you guys give me just like a little background on Culture Studio? How did you guys get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, specifically directed to culture, you know, we didn't kind of flip a coin and just choose, you know, that first word in the company name. You know, we knew, I guess, even before really starting the business, that, you know, the culture of the organization was going to be the number one top priority. We kind of had a dream to get, you know, very interesting clients, but ultimately, you know, we, you know, knew super early on that even if it was fun or we were doing, you know, really, I used to say, like, cool stuff, that would die down. And, you know, we would a t-shirt became a t-shirt and a print became a print. And so it really had to be all about the culture. And that may be something, you know, even in your intro that you just mentioned, is it's definitely not about free snacks or slides or, like, you know, anything like that. Like, so often I think tech does, you know, the most talking about culture, and it's usually surrounded with work-life balance, no work Fridays and things like that. And our culture is the polar opposite of that. Our culture is about doing something in an industry that has never been done before. Our culture is about achieving a 2-day ground shipment anywhere in the US, establishing a championship team, treating them like family, and on and on and on those principles go. And I don't know, you know, Carlo, we're flying by the seat of our pants, certainly, you know, when we started the organization, and, you know, we had a 900 square foot shop and the dark room was inside the bathroom, and that we certainly didn't understand, like, how to hone in these principles at that time. So it certainly took a very long time, I say, to like establish these and really make them work for us. But, you know, I also don't think we scream from the mountaintop either. You know, we do things very organically, and you know, we spend time as a leadership team coming up with, what is this company all about? And we spend time talking to our team about, what are they trying to do? What's important to them in their career? And then, you know, we organically and authentically integrate those principles into the organization so that they don't necessarily, you know, become a billboard. They're more like talking points and tools that we continue to use on and on and on, and then they just catch. And when they catch is, like, so much more impactful than saying, like, okay, we're going to make this giant sign that says respect and transparency, and, like, that's their company culture. And it's like, okay, like, what does that even mean? Like, who has a company that's disrespectful, you know, or, like, who has a company that, you know, is, you know, like, I say anti-transparent, right? Like
Comcast,
yeah,
I'll put that.
yeah, Xfinity, right?
Comcast, ComEd.
But yeah, I think that's how the organization has been built. One stone at a time, one principle at a time. Certainly has not been the easy way. It definitely the route that we choose is the hard way, and it's supposed to be hard. And if it's not hard, then you chose the easy path.
Interesting. So, and maybe Carlo, you can talk to me a little bit about that. So you used a lot of words there that really stick out to me, that organic growth, the hard path. It's not just about a sign. So then, Carlo, what are the things that Culture Studio is doing? Like, are there specific tools that you use, or are there policies, or are there procedures that you all implement that aligns with that?
Yes, for sure. I think Rich really laid it out perfectly there. But I'd give it to Rich is really the one that brings the process and really comes with the structure of not just talking about things, but also putting it down on paper. And then we create really cool graphics and things. But before you get to that point, it's just getting everyone aligned on what the goal is. Like, I think that's where it starts. It's like, what are we trying to achieve as an organization? And I can tell you that our goals and what we're trying to achieve are completely different than anyone else or any other competitor or anyone else that we would compare ourselves to. We have a goal, and as long as we at the leadership team and everyone at the board level understands where we want to go, then we start to build those things to really get the team in line and really understand. And then they have a purpose. It's like, here's what we're trying to achieve. Everyone buy into that and understand, and then everyone has kind of their marching orders, and we start to really take really big steps and progress forward. That's where I think it starts, is really understanding where you're trying to go. So I know a lot of shops, even businesses themselves, they don't want to be the biggest on the planet. And that's cool too. They want to be a nice, strong 1 million, $2 million in revenue, have those summer Fridays that Rich is talking about and leave on Friday nice and early, kind of like a family business. And there is nothing wrong with that. Sometimes Rich and I look at each other and like, dude, man, that sounds a little easier, man. Should we just do that? Like, should we change the goal a little bit? That sounds so much, just so much more achievable and a little easier, but that could be someone's goal. Ours is totally different. And we just got to be really clear about that. And then we start to build all those cool tools and things around the buy-in to that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's just like, this is not a one size fits all is what I'm really getting from this. It sounds like it's very personal to each shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of stood out to me with that is it sounds like it could be flexible. Would you say maybe when you first started out, your goals and maybe even your company culture has changed a little bit from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, I think change is the only constant. I don't think the ultimate vision has changed much. We're chameleons for our clients. And something that we have going on right now that I'm trying to put in a good package is we have 4 automatic monsters, so 18 colors and up, being installed in 2 separate factories at the same exact time, and we're trying to put that in some kind of like cool visual explanation. But there's certainly been, like, from contractors to team members, just say like, I mean, why are we killing ourselves here? For what reason? It's 98 degrees inside. And let's just say, like, this is our capacity and this is what we're able to do. And this is how many hours in the day. And that's it. Carlo is the first one to stand up and say, well, because that's not our culture. Our culture is to install these machines in a week and a half, which is unheard of. I mean, even M&R people have said that this is the impossible, but somehow, some way, they always seem to get it done, right? Like, from the electricians to our team members to, everybody in between, they find out it's possible. And I think, like, that's where the pure joy comes from. That's where purpose in your role comes from, is, all of us humans, approach things being super change adverse. I just moved to like the slight suburbs of the city. It took me an hour to get into work today. I am super change adverse. It was horrible. And once you achieve that, and then like it means a lot more. It's like you could take like so much passion in like, okay, like it was the unthinkable, but we got it done. And that's our company culture, and that hasn't wavered very much. How we get things done, and fine tuning those principles, and continuing to also find people that really want to be in a startup forever, and being able to attract and find that type of talent that has deep grit and tenacity that I would say spans across all of your senses. Being able to be yelled at, being able to be hot and not be able to see, and like everything in between. Those warriors are not easy to come by, but that's our job, Carlo and I, is to constantly be out there trying to recruit and find those people that have that chip on their shoulder that they have to win.
That's really interesting, especially like given today's staffing discussions that everybody keeps having. Like it continues to be an issue. I keep hearing it from small mom and pop shops all the way up to like the big guys. Like everyone keeps saying, yep, we're still having some staffing struggles. Maybe it's not as bad as it was in 21 or 22 or whatever, still a struggle. So, talking about the challenges of not just staffing, but like how company culture plays into that and all that stuff. I mean, Carlo, where do you see the big challenges playing out when you are building company culture, and then kind of how that relates to building a team and having a solid, reliable team?
It actually really helps with recruiting, and
okay.
I use it a lot. I lean on the culture and the way things are within our company a lot. To be honest, I kind of use it to scare people away in interviews. I'm actually interviewing like crazy right now. I'm actually doing my own recruiting. I'm out there. We're trying to build even further of a dream team than we already have. We're like going hard on recruiting. I think we have like 15 to 25 open roles right now. And
wow.
We've already surpassed 230 employees, and we still have so much more to add. And so we're on like a recruiting frenzy right now. Honestly, I do reflect back on the culture very often,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll explain to them like, this is what a day in the life is like. And I'll give them the worst of the worst and tell them how ugly it can be as far as the demand and the turn time and the expectation, and the bar is set so high. And I try to scare them away. Honestly, I give them the energy, and I give them the passion that comes through every single day. If that scares them or makes them run away a little bit, that's not the place for you. And I think it saves everyone a little time. Like, let's not waste our time. If you're looking for checking out at 4 p.m. or not getting a text message on Sunday because a tour is missed, this is not the right place for you. I'm not saying you got to kill yourself. This is also a very fun place to work, but it's easy to rely on a little bit and reflect and say, this is what we're trying to do. And, Rich mentioned the championship team type of strategy. And we use that a little bit to say, have you ever heard of any championship team that just coasted their way through to the end? Like, it's hard, and you lose and you cry and you laugh, and you see the successes along the way, but it's never easy. It's funny. Like I even have like a box of tissues in my office now, and it's kind of like a joke, but it's also just for myself. So like me and Rich, we're like in the corner crying, like, why did we do this? And like, we committed to it's just crazy, but it's good to lean on the culture and say, it's supposed to be hard, and trust us, when we get through it, we're going to celebrate too. So it's like, we're going to get through it, and we're going to celebrate the wins. And we do take a second to reflect and celebrate the success along the way, but it's supposed to be hard. And we definitely use that with recruiting. And I find, honestly, sometimes some candidates will say, thank you for being really honest about your culture and how it runs at Culture Studio. That's not what I'm looking for, but I really wish you guys the best of luck. And boom, that's perfect, because we all know we recruit, we hire, and then we find out 60 to 90 days later that it's just not the right fit. We can save a little time there if we're just really upfront in the beginning.
I love that. And for the record, I have a little box of tissues when in my office for when I, lose it on a deadline, or like something absolutely crazy happens. I feel that.
Nothing wrong with that. It shows that you care, and there's some tears coming out. It's like, all right, there's some passion there. I can do something with the passion.
I love that. But like to speak to that, I mean, I think that's like a huge part of building a good culture too, is you're making sure you're getting someone who's equally passionate or will get to that passion or discover it or whatever. That's, I think there's a lot of power behind that. One of the things Carlo, you attended our apparel decoration summit that we had in Nashville. And this was a hot topic there too. And I think I recall you specifically even making a comment like, hey, we're getting a little spicy here now, guys. It's an interesting topic. And like you guys have both said, everybody has an opinion on it. Everybody has a different approach to it. But I think that transparency is really important, especially from like, now I'm thinking, listening to you guys from like that management perspective, right? So you guys have talked about implementing, you've talked about sort of some of the policies, procedures, you've talked about the interviewing process. Let's jump even further into it. So now, we're talking, we've built a culture, we've got it ready, we've been very transparent with our employees. What does it take to manage the company culture? Does that make sense? Like, how does a good manager then make sure you're carrying that all the way through on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis?
Yeah, again, I'll speak to like the I would say authentic side of the culture of the organization. And something that we're working deeply on right now is our org chart. And our org chart looks, I think, very different than if you Google one. It doesn't have the one box up top and then all these squares coming down, because we have this level of I would say bar set, and we're trying to hire top talent across the board at all times. We're trying to build accountable teams and get the heck out of their way. And us as leaders are trying to become that trusted resource for each other's teams. And I think, something else to mention is, by definition, we run a family business. There is way more than one family member. We have Joey and Nick and Carlo and myself and further on from there. And so, I would say, like, certainly by definition, we run a family business, but it's because of the way that we set up the org chart. And because of how we establish what we would call like accountable teams, that we're not in each other's way. There's very clear definition of who's on whose team. And, then those teams are working not independently, but with each other. And, that leader is utilizing the tools that we've rolled out for them. And when we all start to speak the same, and, like, even if one of us aren't there and, someone asks something to say, like to Carlo, somebody will say like, hey, Carlo, what do you think about this? And if he has almost the exact same response, which happens daily, it can get nauseating, especially for like, team members that have felt comfortable. They're like, oh my God, these guys are going to say exact. It's like, it's not by accident. I mean, even at the highest level, like the Four Seasons has thousands of team members and employees, and have found a way for them all to speak in the same language. And that's certainly not by design or like handing out a handbook. That is by building leadership and building teams, smaller teams if possible, and having that trusted leadership and that trusted source so that you could utilize these tools. And that's the only way that we've been able to be successful. And even, the challenges of running another facility thousands of miles away, has even in today's day where you think you could just hop on a Zoom or something like this, and it's hard to get culture through that monitor. It's that same thing. Building these teams, continuing to use the tools, has been the only way to get consistency across the board.
Yeah, as it pertains to like getting the team, or at least managing culture as it goes down and kind of spreads out to the entire team. Yeah. I always use this kind of phrase or metaphor where it's like culture is like, it's like a baby, and you have to feed it constantly, like a newborn. You can't leave it. You can't leave the newborn. You got to keep your eyes on the baby at every single moment of the day. And as soon as it makes a mess of itself, you got to clean it up immediately. And that's just like culture. As soon as it makes a mess of itself, and it happens every single day, every single hour, you don't let it go by. You attack it immediately. Someone responds to an email not properly. Someone doesn't speak to the team member properly, or just it just doesn't fit in line with the culture. Have to address it right there and then. Just like that baby, got to clean it up.
Are you speaking from experience, Carlo?
Yeah,
With
I got
the babies.
Rich has 2 daughters. I have 3. So between us, we're changing the population of females.
One baby at a time.
Yeah, one baby at a time.
Yeah, our family's got you covered with the offset. We got all boys, so there you go.
There you go. We're good.
All right, guys. Well, like I said, we're kind of coming up on time here. For anyone who has further questions, maybe wants to pick your brain a little bit more, where can people connect with either you personally or just with you through Culture Studio?
Yeah, you can hit us up on our website just to contact us. But I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm always checking messages there. So yeah, love to speak to anybody. Just give me a shout there.
Yeah, same LinkedIn. All of our emails are pretty easy to find as well. Our names and culturestudio.net.
Sounds good, guys. And you can also find Carlo's information on the Apparelist website, apparelist.com. As I mentioned earlier, he is on our advisory board. So you can definitely connect with any of the Apparelist advisory board members, apparelist.com. You can find us on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the big players. Want to say big thanks to Carlo and Rich today for joining us. Appreciate it, guys.
That was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.